Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Dan Patrick coming up here in a few moments. We got another football game tonight, another NFL game tonight. Packers, Eagles in Brazil. There's video circulating of crazy Eagle fans and crazy Packer fans taking over the streets of Sao Paulo.
Dude, I don't know, man. It's
tailgating down there.
Yeah, that seems like a crazy location down there.
I
don't know Brazil. I don't know what goes on there. I'm not tailgating in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, that's a commitment, man. But NFL fans travel.
Dude, I get it, but weren't the players told not to go outside?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be reasonable, though. It's a big city. It's a massive metropolis.
Have you been there?
No, I have not been there. But my point is, those are scare tactics. Don't leave what's going to happen? Like maybe the players, because they're so high profile.
Yeah, Luke's told us about what the players are up against. They're not going anywhere anyway.
Wow.
They're not doing it anyway.
You go to New Orleans, don't go 2 blocks off the strip. Like you're asking for trouble. Like that's a fact. That's not an old wives' tale. You want to mess around and head into areas that that are where there's undesirables, then you're taking your life in your hands. You can be careful.
Absolutely, that can apply all around the world. There's a lot of different places around the world, and the idea that you can't leave your hotel or don't ever go somewhere, I think that's a bit rich. Again, I think the players are different because they're high profile. They're there to do a job. If you went down there to party or have a great time, you're going to party and have a great time. I mean, that's, I'm sure, what's coming if you're an Eagle fan or a Packer fan. But I'm curious to see what the stadium looks like tonight. Whether has everyone got the Rob Lowe NFL hat? Like, is everyone just an objective viewer tonight?
Rob Lowe NFL
the black hat
was
NFL.
Crazy.
That was awesome.
Who goes to a sporting event with an NFL hat?
The logo.
I want to go to the gift shop, but I just want the logo of the sport.
Right.
That's it.
I'm a big Roger Goodell fan. Yeah. And I want to make sure that he knows that I support him.
He's had to have been on a podcast to answer that question, hasn't he? He's got to have been.
Yeah, you would think so.
Because it was such a big deal.
I haven't seen an answer on that, but that went viral quickly. Because he looks so disinterested in everything as well. That didn't help.
I thought it was awesome. He was just chilling.
Yeah, he was.
You know what? Like, he's I think he's a cool dude. I don't know. I mean, the Rob Lowe roast was unbelievable. I don't know.
Did he have a roast? So I didn't know that.
Oh, my God. Go and watch it. Because there's some stuff in his past, like, that's well documented, and they go after it pretty hard. And it's not, it's not good.
Who doesn't have a roast now? Like, that's what it's become.
Rob Lowe
let me ask you this, Hayes. If someone said to you, you're a famous guy in the city, we want to roast you and really, just completely would you actually sign up for it? Because I know I wouldn't.
I don't think I would do it out of the goodness of my heart. I would do it for $30 million like Brady did.
Yeah.
Oh, for $30 million, yeah. Is that how much he got?
Yes, allegedly.
He got shares in he got points on the deal. Yes, he got
huge amount of money.
That's for $30 million, you could take it to a different level.
Exactly.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was.
You could perform surgery, literal surgery on me for $30 million.
And they did, though.
No, I understand they did, but the crocodile tears afterwards, Noodles, is so ridiculous from Brady. Yeah. I didn't realize it was going to get so. Do you realize what we're dealing with here? Like Jeff Ross and that group, they destroy people.
Yeah,
like they are there to
you know what they want to hear too? They want to hear you can't take it this way, and then they take that personally, and they're like, that's the place I'm going to go first.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't show any weakness.
The minute you say don't talk about that, they're like, oh, okay. We won't talk about that, and they literally talk about it.
Right.
Like that's what it was. Although Ross did not go back to he was giving it to the owner, right, Bobby Kraft.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing was that Bob Kraft, that was a bridge too far for Brady. Giselle,
not Giselle and
Bridget
and the
Moynihan,
trainer, and exactly. The Bridget Moynihan comments
everyone
too.
Else is free game, but don't you dare say a word about Bob Kraft because where they went with Bob. They went right to the orchids of Asia. and Bob got hit square between the eyes.
Oh my
and it was just right in front of them.
Those roasts are ruthless.
They're ruthless.
Did they give the Orchids of Asia?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
they give that to Bobby Kraft?
Yes, he got hit with a really significant left-right combo.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's actually, the Tony Hinchcliffe, there's some unbelievable.
Did they go worse than Orchids of Asia?
Well, I don't know how much. I don't know the specifics. I saw the joke. I heard it a few different times. It was very clear what they were indicating.
Yes,
what
they were indicating
Bob Kraft
massages
was up
and stuff,
to.
but it was what had happened. It kind of it was personal. He said here, come on in here, and I'll give you a massage. That's kind of what set him off.
Right.
But there were so many personal things in that. That was. I think it was a 3-hour special.
Oh, it was crazy.
I watched it. I thought it was brilliant.
Netflix got everything they wanted out of that. It was a monster success. But again, Brady, I believe, made $30 million.
Yeah.
So I get you're rich.
I
agree.
Maybe you can't cry. You can't cry after that. You shut up.
Can't
and
claim
leave.
ignorance afterwards. Oh, I didn't realize that they were going to goof on me for certain things. Yeah. Come on, dude. Because anyone you've seen, the ones that were on Comedy Central and stuff, were ugly and over the line. Now you take it to a streaming service where there's no censorship whatsoever. Yeah. They destroyed Brady.
Dan's probably been a part of some roast in some capacity.
He probably gets invited to all of them. Yeah.
Probably done one maybe himself for charity, maybe made some scratch, maybe he's shown up and roasted other people. I'm not sure. Let's get to it. Here he is, the host of the Dan Patrick Show, which you hear daily here on TSN Radio. Here's Dan Patrick back on Overdrive. Have you ever taken part in a roast, whether you're the one to get roasted or you roasting other people, Dan?
I got duped into it a long time ago, and it was for charity. And guys that I know that are still in the business were saying things that probably could get you fired. And I'm squirming because, everybody was unfiltered. And I just thought, man, somebody's going to lose their job. And there was one tape of it, and I destroyed it because I thought I'm going to protect some people's careers here. And I just took the bullets, and that was it. But I've never roasted. I have no interest in roasting. I get uncomfortable watching the roast.
Oh,
and then
me too.
When I'm watching Brady, I'm going, I don't care what they paid you, that you would go through that and then think for some reason your wife or ex-wife would be off limits. I mean, that to me was the most mind-boggling thing, that he's going to go, yeah, you can roast me. What are you going to say? Something crazy about my combine picture or Bill Belichick? Or no, we're going all in on your wife, Tom. And you could just, from what I was told, Robert Kraft and Tom's kids were off limits. But that was it. So
why would Robert Kraft be a bridge too far for Brady? Of all the people in his life, Bob Kraft is a guy that you can't go there on that.
But not alone Brady. The comedians don't care about Robert Kraft.
Well, and that's why they blew right
guy.
through that stop sign, and they said what they said about him.
But they brought him up, too. Bobby Kraft actually ended up coming up and talking and doing some jokes, and he was a good sport. I think what people have to realize is, and I know it's the age of political correctness, but when you're there, it's just, hey, everyone's having fun. It's not too personal. I mean, they were going after everybody involved. I mean,
equally.
Exactly.
Equally taking hits.
Exactly. But, I mean, there was a few bridges that went a little too far.
What happens, a lot of times, you think it's about this guy getting roasted, when really everybody is in play, and they start using one-liners on the fellow roasters. So it's kind of a unique. It's not just people firing a bullet straight ahead. They're using stuff all over the place. It's kind of scattershot there of taking down people. But Tom protects Robert Kraft because it's a fatherly or grandfatherly figure to him. But I mean, come on, you're getting taken care of before you get on the plane to go to a football game, and you're the owner and you get caught. I mean, come on, you got to make fun of that a little bit. If,
absolutely,
you're going to be a roaster.
You have to. Is there a bigger debut in Week 1 than Tom Brady in the booth?
A bigger debut. Well, these rookies. I mean, I look at it that way. Tom's going to be fun. Here's the thing that Tom has to figure out. He already knows football. That would be a big hurdle for most. He knows football. He has to learn TV. And that's what really messes up some people. They have no idea, former athletes or coaches, what 30 seconds is. You go, hey, you got 30 seconds. They have no idea. Although you would think with the play clock, they would know 30 seconds. Tom's got to speak in sound bites. He's got to get in and get out. And that's really hard to make your point in 15 seconds, 17 seconds, and then let the play-by-play guy take over. I think that's Tom's biggest challenge is just the synchronicity or the flow of a game. But, he's summa cum laude when it comes to football, so he has the knowledge. He just has to figure out, how to say something and say it in a way that fits in. It's a jigsaw puzzle. Doing those games, it's a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes the puzzles don't fit or pieces don't fit. And that's what Tom's going to have to figure out if he already has it.
The one thing he did when he was playing, he didn't need to figure out is anytime he needed a PI call, he seemed to get it, Dan. And last night, watching the Chiefs, it's like the people are going nuts today with the connection with the refs and Mahomes and the Chiefs. In your time watching the NFL, what is it with the stud star quarterback always getting the calls?
Yeah, but the same thing happened when Wade Boggs would take a pitch, or Tony Gwynn or Rod Carew, the umpire would be like, yep, that's a ball. Whether it was or not, it was like, but these guys know what they're doing. They got a better eye than I do. They took that pitch. That can't be a strike. And, they always got the benefit of the doubt on that. But Tom and Peyton and I guess, when they complain, then it's like, oh, well, maybe we may throw the flag. But I find they throw the flag now just as kind of a preemptive that, maybe it wasn't pass interference. We thought it was. Nobody really complains when they pick up the flag, or they complain when they don't call the flag or throw the flag, and it's really egregious. And I think it's tough for these officials, even tougher. Throw in gambling on top of this. I mean, we are so micromanaging officials now, reading into everything we possibly can. And there's replay. They're seeing it in real time. We see it 5 different angles, slow motion. And, if you've ever stood on the sideline to watch a game in real time, you're like, I have no idea how you could possibly get half of the calls right when it comes to incidental contact or did he have his arm around him? Was he holding him? All of these things. I think they do a pretty incredible. Favorites? Absolutely.
With Dan Patrick, we got another ball game tonight. We'll get to that momentarily. But if you're watching that game last night, if you're playing the role of the 31 other teams in the league, not named the Kansas City Chiefs, what would be more concerning to you, the way their defense played last night or the offensive weapons that showed up last night?
Well, the defense did give up 450 yards. So I got to factor that in. I don't know why they used Derrick Henry, 5 carries, first drive, touchdown, and then he had 8 carries the rest of the game. I just don't understand there's no flow to their offense. It's just, it's chunky, clunky. It's because of Lamar Jackson. But Kansas City won them a Super Bowl last year, and I do think they're a better team this year. If I'm the opposition, I'm more concerned about Xavier Worthy can be a Tyreek Hill kind of player. Rashee Rice, if he stays out of jail, has an opportunity to be an impact player because I don't think Kelsey is – he's not going to be the guy that he's been. I just think at age 35, it catches up to you. And now that doesn't mean he won't – he'll be used kind of like Gronk was with the Patriots. Whenever you needed a big catch, big game, Gronk always came up with that. And that's probably what Kelsey will do. And Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, and you got Andy Reid. it's still pretty formidable there. So I think having another weapon in there like Xavier Worthy, that would get my attention.
Yeah, that's scary, man. Like 2 touchdowns last night. Rice didn't get into the end zone, but I thought he was outstanding. And, Andy Reid, Mahomes, like you already start with the best quarterback, best offensive mind on the sidelines. Now you add weapons like that. It's scary. And, yet the rest of the league's got to try to figure that out. And we've had these discussions throughout the week, and this is more of an evergreen topic in sports. Like, are you a fan of the standalone dynasty that everyone's chasing, or do you prefer to have maybe a two-headed monster like the Manning versus Brady scenario, even though the wins and losses lean towards the Patriots? It did seem equal there for the first, 10 to 12, 13 years. Who do you like better? Who do you think is a better player? Who's a better team? Because at this point, it's Mahomes versus everyone else. Like no one else is on his level. Do you appreciate that, or would you like to see someone possibly knock him off at least for a year or two?
Well, growing up, you had dynasties. The Steelers were a dynasty. The Niners were a dynasty. Cowboys were a dynasty. I like that. I like that there is a team or a player, having covered Jordan through that championship run. There was one team, there was one guy. And I like that. UCLA basketball, I grew up in that era. Everybody was gunning for that one team. And I don't know, I reminisce about that because that's what I grew up with. But then back then you didn't have free agency. You had guys who were staying with their teams. Players in college were staying 4 years. You can't, like the sustained greatness that they have in Kansas City. I mean, we even try to redefine dynasty. It's like, hey, if you win 2 Super Bowls in 5 years, is that a dynasty? I mean, that was preposterous to pose back in the 70s. It was like, no, you got to win like 3 in a row to be a dynasty, or you have to win whatever it is. And that's why what the Patriots did, and they had bookend dynasties, like at the beginning of Tom's career, at the end of Tom's career, because in the middle, they had a long gap where they didn't get to Super Bowls. But what Kansas City is doing in this day and age of free agency, they draft extremely well. And that's what's kept them there. And that's to be admired. And I like it. I like that everybody knows Kansas City's the team to beat. And teams build their team to beat that team. That's the ultimate compliment that you can have in any sport.
With Dan Patrick, and I think every sport in North America knows that the NFL's the league to beat. They're the kings of the county, so to speak, and they're doing something unique tonight. They're playing a game on a Friday night to open the season. I think the first time since like the 70s that happened. They've already in the last few years decided we're taking Christmas. Like the NBA's got to move to Boxing Day or something because Christmas is over. The NFL owns that now. And I think, I'm not sure they were planning it this way, Dan, but I'll guarantee you they'll walk out of tonight and say, we're doing that moving forward. Not necessarily playing every Friday night, but opening week, why wouldn't you play Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday? Could this be a precursor to that? And when you look into the future, how many days a week do you think the NFL will end up taking over?
Well, there is a rule in effect that you can play the first week in September on a Friday night. If this game, they couldn't have done this in the second week on a Friday night because of high school football in the United States. There's a rule that's been in place since, I think, 1961, which is good. High school football should stand alone on Friday. Now, college football has been playing on Friday night the last decade or so. But do I think they love money? And we've found that they can't give us enough football yet. And Mark Cuban talked about that, about slaughtering a pig or something, whatever. Hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered, something like that. Basically, the NFL can out NFL itself. But I just don't see it because of gambling and fantasy. You never get tired of. There's always something to watch. I have money on the game, or I have a fantasy team player playing in this game, and think there's no other sport that shines through. But I think if they got Thursday, I'm not big on Thursday. You're going to have Sunday, obviously, and Monday. I think if they could squeeze it in, but it's different than all the other sports because of just the physicality of it. I don't know if the players they'll go for an 18th game. I don't know if they'd go for another night of football anytime soon.
Well, we will, have the luxury of seeing one tonight down in Brazil. Packers, Eagles. I am a Packer fan. I've been very lucky. I went Brett Favre into Aaron Rodgers, and I am very bullish on the idea of Jordan Love following this up the last two and possibly being MVP caliber and being a stud for a long time. And if that ends up happening, is there a bigger troll job you can think in sports than the Packers over the last 40 years if it turns out to be that Favre into Rodgers into Love? Like if Love pops and is a top 5 quarterback at times over the next decade, is there anything worse you could imagine if you're a Vikings fan, if you're a Bears fan and Williams is a bust? Like, isn't it the biggest troll job possible?
Well, if the Bears get their quarterback, then they'll be okay if you got your quarterback. I don't know how the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy might be a starter in the league when he's healthy. I don't know if he's a franchise quarterback. But, I liken the Green Bay Packers situation to the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you go from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin, that's the same as going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And then you're going to roll the dice on Jordan Love. And, by all accounts, looks like he's going to get paid as a franchise quarterback. But we had this conversation last year at this time, Brian, and I said, I like him a lot. And I have a friend who works for the team and said he was ready to start the previous year. They just couldn't get Aaron out of the building. So I think they're in great shape. Going to the Super Bowl is certainly in play. I just hope. I worry about C.J. Stroud regressing a little bit. Does Jordan Love regress a little bit, or did he have that regression when he started and then he figured it out and it clicked all the way into the playoffs? I think C.J. Stroud. I don't like the Texans as much as everybody else, but it's tricky with a first or second year quarterback, and Jordan Love should be treated as such. Once they get a book on you and they figure you out, that's when you see the chess game begin. That's when you see true greatness of, all right, they're going to take that away from me. All right, I'm going to do this. We're going to learn to do this. That's what I'm curious about with Love. And I like their running backs. I just hope they have maybe a standalone wideout that when times get tough, can somebody be a Devontae Adams? That's what I want to know. Because every team, it's like last night, and I said this earlier today, one team knew how to close and the other team did not. Baltimore does not know how to close out in these situations, and certainly against Kansas City. I want to make sure that these quarterbacks understand that, because that's what Brady did. Like, we got to the point where it was like Jordan with the ball, game on the line. Brady, 2 minutes to go, they're down by 4. Damn it, he's going to win again. Like, that's the point. When you get to that with your quarterback, that's when you know you got, the lineage is there to follow the all-time greats.
Absolutely. It'll be a fun one tonight, and the season is just getting started. We hear you every day, the Dan Patrick Show right here on TSN Radio. It's always great catching up with you, Dan. Thank you for doing this.
Just want to let you know, though, I did pick Detroit to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Ooh.
There you go.
They're good, man. It's tough to argue against that.
I don't have a bias towards anybody. I don't root for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that, because somebody will say, well, you hate – I don't hate anybody. I like content. Whatever's the best content, that's what I love, because it makes our jobs easier. I just think the Lions, they've progressed every single year. And they, hopefully they learn from that. It's like the Pistons couldn't get by the Celtics until they did, and then they never turned around. Great teams need to have adversity, fight through it to understand it. And I got the Lions. And, bash me already. I've got the Jets going to the Super Bowl as well.
Wow.
All right.
Holy
Did you
smokes.
pick a winner out of those two, or do they tie and just go home?
I picked the Lions. If I picked the Jets, it'd be the all-time troll job. But it's weird with Rodgers. I played golf with him. Like, he's a different cat when if he's healthy. and even at 40, he makes you look wrong. He proves you wrong. And I think they have a really good defense. They got a really good wide receiver. They have a really good running back. I don't think they have a good coach, but I do think Rodgers is the coach's GM. So I picked the Jets and the Lions in the Super Bowl.
That would be incredible content. I will support that because I see it the same way you do. Let's see if it plays out. I'm sure we'll chat long before that. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys. All right, have a good weekend.
You too. There's Dan Patrick joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Jets and Lions.
Detroit Jets would be a bombshell Super Bowl. Like that would be – I would be in big trouble if that happens because I have destroyed those two organizations for a long time.
I love this comment about the Jets. They don't have a good coach. You think that would ever get back to the Jets PR, that comment?
Yeah. Dan Patrick, for sure. I'm sure he said it on his own show a bunch. I mean, Salah's got to prove that he can win. He hasn't proven that he can win. He's a great coordinator in San Fran. Seems like a good guy, but you got to prove you can win.
He's had built-in excuses, though, because he's had nonsense rookie quarterbacks where he's like, how the hell can I win? Yeah. Just like we were talking about yesterday, hiding plays with goaltenders or whatever, bad goaltending. How do you judge? It's always been how do you judge with these donkey quarterbacks or a guy blowing his Achilles out? Now is the time to judge Salah as a coach.
Absolutely. If Rodgers is healthy and he's playing, this is as good as you're going to get. You're not finding anybody else that's going to put up the same level of production. A lot of people bullish on the Jets. The Lions, they deserve it. They got great rosters. Like on paper, both teams are stacked. The Bills getting a lot of love. We're just getting started. And again, Kansas City sitting there 1-0 saying, I'm ready to party whenever you are. Whenever you want to party, let's party, and let's see what happens here. All right, Luke Wilson, Al's brother, coming up in about 40 minutes. Dear Hazy be in an hour. It's going to be a good one. Dear Hazy be back in the rotation at 6:30 in our Best Bets. Brought to you by FanDuel later this afternoon. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Luke Wilson, Al's brother, in studio in about a half an hour. We are on the clock with the game tonight, Packers, Eagles, and then we'll be picking the 3 games on Sunday. We'll save the Monday nighter for Monday. Dear Hazy be in about an hour. Best Bets still to come, brought to you by FanDuel, and it's going to be fun the next, month and a half for a lot of different reasons. Because we have the NFL back, CFL starting back up again tonight. Big game, BC at Montreal. Big game tonight. And President's Cup in a couple of weeks in Montreal.
Yes.
And we're going. The boys are going. Overdrive is going to be there at the President's Cup. And we are jacked. It is going to be outstanding.
And let me just throw a little feeler out there. If there's any nice tracks downtown Montreal close to the city that me and Hazy B, early morning tee off, and then we don't work till 4, we shoot over to the President's Cup. We're interested. Someone direct traffic. We're not looking for freebies.
No,
although
never.
if you got game, we'll take me and Hazy will take you on in Montreal. Early morning.
Oh yeah.
If you just can
game.
Just a couple dudes. Like if you got a nice track, we'll pay our own way and we'll play against you. If you got something, me and Hazy B are interested.
Okay, I love it. The Bell Province, man. It's calling our name, and again, we're going to be broadcasting live from the President's Cup. We're going to be there, just like with the Canadian Open, like the same thing. RBC Canadian Open. We are going to be on the scene, rocking all week. We can't wait for it, and we want you to be there too. If you heard the keyword announced this morning on First Up, call us right now, 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with today's keyword qualifies to win the trip. You can win flight, accommodations, $500 spending cash, and 2 tickets to see the world's top players compete at the Royal Montreal Golf Club. Full details at tsn1050.ca. We had Scottie Vale on a couple of weeks ago. Who's a good Canadian boy, but he's also the caddy for Keegan Bradley, who's playing for the American team.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Yeah. Like you talk about Rob Lowe, he might have to just wear, I don't know what he's going to wear, like neutral colors if you're Scottie.
I wonder if that would be tough. Scottie being a Canadian, like a die-hard kind of Canadian old school guy. Like Keegan makes a putt, and he's like, "Oh well, guess next hole we go."
Gives him a bad
because
read.
that happens all the time. Like guys from different countries are caddies for like the American, and that's your guy. You're supporting that guy.
Of course. Yeah. Listen, he knows where his bread's buttered, right? Like Scottie's not going to, leave a wedge on 13 to screw over Keegan, so that the international team gets a dub.
I wonder if Scottie and other caddies have been talking about that Scheffler's caddy and the lifestyle that guy must be living. Because
crazy, man. He's making more money than
$2 million in his jeans. The caddy this year.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
$6.2 million. That's
the caddy. That's more than Tiger in his heyday.
That's
for
right.
Crying out loud.
That's more, I believe, than Jack Nicklaus made his whole career on the golf course. Like now it's relative because we're talking. That's the 60s.
I get it, but still, man,
he made more. Ted Scott made more than Jack Nicklaus.
What's that old codger there that we were watching up and down the course that packed it in near the end in Hamilton there? Was Fluffy? What was his name?
Oh, Fluff. Yeah, Fluffy.
He's probably made some coin over the years.
Yeah.
He's probably made some
Fluff made
bank.
scratch.
Yeah, he was hanging around. He was Tiger's caddy for crying out loud.
That didn't last long though. Tiger's camp said, "Fluff, you're sticking a cigarette up in the air and giving us a read. Like we can't have this anymore."
That guy. Remember how tired he was by the end? Like we were.
Said, "No way."
I felt bad.
Did he blow a wheel? I think he blew a wheel. Didn't he?
He blew a wheel coming down the hill, and he blew out his leg or something. He just said, "CT pants, take your bag and shove it." CT was, and then the grit grinder came out of the crowd and grabbed the bib and was the caddy.
That's right.
And then the CT Pan gassed him.
Yeah, he got fired. A good Samaritan got fired. By CT Pan. I saw CT Pan. I was watching him and Fluff early in the week on 11 at Hamilton, man. He laid into a driver. It barely got to the fairway. There was so much wind. And he just took off. Like, no conversations with Fluff. Fluff was just doing his own thing. Like, that's the kind of awkward thing about that relationship. Like, I'm sure you're close with your caddy, but you have someone filling in and you're doing practice rounds. That's a pretty intimate setting. And if you're a player that just has nothing to say to your caddy, basically,
that's a total. You're looking for a guy to give you a number, and that's it.
Basically, don't say a word.
That's basically saying, if I could, I would carry my own bag. I just need a guy to wheel the bag around so I don't get fatigued.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But, yeah, Ted Scott, man, $6.2 million. Incredible.
Man, I love
Incredible.
it.
Yeah, it's a cool story. I mean, that's how well Scheffler's playing, and Scheffler will be there. Scottie will be in Montreal doing his thing, man. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to be there. We can't wait for it. So more on that as we get closer to the President's Cup, and that'll be around, I think the Leafs are in Montreal on the Saturday night. Like, the preseason will be started before we get there. That's how quickly it happens, right? Like, teams get into camp. They'll be doing physicals in a week. They'll be on the ice in, a week and a half. Well, and then, boom, you start playing games.
You're 4 days in, and you're into a game. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing. I think we have this argument or these comments every year. Too many exhibition games still because, you're dressed in skeleton lineups. Teams, you show up to watch a guy and nobody's playing, all of that. Teams get blown out because one team dresses in NHL lineup, the other team dresses in the ECHL lineup.
Noodles, I'll take it a step further. I think that the league, and I don't know, Pierre gripes about it every year, and so do I. There is no reason that hockey shouldn't be starting this upcoming weekend. Same as the NFL. I know it's tough to go up against the NFL, but Wednesday night, it's like Leafs have Saturday night hockey. It's like, this is Canada. Like, get the season over faster. There's no reason not to start now. We talk about too many, and part of the reason is too many exhibition games. You get 2 exhibition games, maybe 3, and away you go. These guys have proven that one lockout year, it was like, get to your city, you got 5 days to get ready, we're playing. And they did, and they were fine. They're always ready to go. It's like, I don't get it. It's stupid for the season to be going into June, end of June. That's nuts, man.
Well, I think you could have. What you can do is even move it up to September 15th, something like that. Like mid-September. And then problem is what do you got? World Cup. What is the league shut down for that this year? Is that a 12, 14-day break?
It's over the course of 10 days, I believe, instead of the All-Star break.
That's where you're running into problems because now it's going to extend into deep June again because you've got this big big tournament, right, kind of in the middle. And it's a moneymaker, and I get it. I understand it.
That's all it's about. That's all it's about is the
Cold
money.
hard cash, man.
Well, the Olympics will be the year after that, so they're stopping for 3 weeks or whatever it
Yeah.
is for the Olympic Games. So, there's listen, we're griping about something that's not going to change. They're not going to change the schedule. It's going to be this way. And it does. I don't know if it feels like Game 7 of the Cup final was yesterday or was a long time ago.
I actually feel like it was a long time ago for some reason.
Right, and it was late. It was like on the 24th of June or something like that.
I feel like it was yesterday. I'm sorry.
It feels like it was
really
a quick
feel
turnaround.
Like that was like, yes, that was. I
Right.
was in Florida yesterday.
I think
like
they
that.
can still. Yeah, I got another month before I'm going to be really craving games, and I appreciate a build-up. But I could watch a hockey game tonight too. I'd be fine with that. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen quick, and once it does, and we get into camp, like there's such a litany of stories with every camp around the league. And here in Toronto, I was reading something on Easton Cowan today, where I saw someone sent me a quote of a trainer who said reminds him of Travis Konechny. And I think that'd be a grand slam win if that's what he were to, like, if he were to grow into a guy that plays like that has that kind of numbers. And like Konechny, did they not just make him the captain in Philly? I believe they did.
Yeah, he's their face. They signed him to a big deal. He's their guy. I mean, he's
great player.
That's what I'm saying though. Like
player.
with Cowan, like if he can get anything close to that, that's a win. Like don't be greedy and think, hey, he's got to turn into a MVP caliber player. Just try to hit and just add depth and be a good player. And that kid's going to show up to camp with the expectation that he wants to make the team.
Right.
And I'm curious to see what he does because those are the kind of stories that always light up this market. They always do. It'd be cool to see Tanev. It'd be cool to see Stolarz. Everyone's going to wonder what's Mitch going to say, blah, blah, blah.
Dude, I think he got their attention last year. Like
he did. He had a great camp.
He did. I think he was so good. They're like, we just can't. They were in between. Like, this guy could almost make our team, but we got to send him back to junior. But he's playing so good, we're keeping him here. Like he was that good last year.
Yeah.
So he
he
should be playing in the National Hockey League this year and be a good player. Sometimes a guy that's talented like that, it's like you're not. The expectation is, get your feet wet. It's kind of like come in and be a good player. Lots of guys do it, and I think that would be my expectation for him. It's not like you're setting it too high where it's like, Toronto, the expectations are crazy. You were a great player. Like when all three of us were in junior, like the really good kind of senior junior players that were already drafted, they kind of stepped in and were kind of good players right away. A lot of them were.
They were. It just my worry again. Maybe I don't want to be a negative Nelly. 19 years old, 5'11". Like that's And now listen, the kid in Dallas, what is it, Stan
Cowan, yeah,
tiny guy, competes like they're young guys play in the league all the time.
Wyatt Johnston, there's another example right there.
Johnston's a bigger body though. That's the only thing. Like
but Noodles, he's not exact. There's not a lot to that kid, man.
All these kids are
rail thin, but he's strong.
Yeah, everybody nowadays, you see them, they're just so lean and fit.
Right.
But Cowan's a player. Like I think it's just a matter of when, and if it's this year, it might be they might give him the games and go, you know what, we're going to blow 1 year of the deal because he's forced us to make him play because
and that's it. Look at Seth Jarvis. Seth Jarvis stepped in, I want to say, when he was 19, and he's not a big guy. Seth Jarvis is not a big guy.
Nope.
Put up really good numbers. They just signed him to a monster deal. There are examples like that, and you got to be a really good player, which Cowan clearly is, but he's a really good player on the junior level. He's got to prove you can be a really good player on the NHL level, and there's countless examples of guys that weren't ready or it just made sense to send them back, and that very well could end up being the case here with Cowan. And I think for the Leafs, you cannot make that decision based on need of your big team, right? You can't look at it and say, we're kind of weak at this position, so we're going to keep them and hope it works. You have to be in the position of development. You got to make sure that you do what's right by him because it's not just about this year with him. Hopefully he's a Leaf for 10 years, 12 years, and he has an impact on your franchise. So, and I would assume that will be their mentality and their approach. But I think, over the years, there have been more examples of kids that weren't ready, and it was like, send them back. And as a result, that's kind of where you lean. And I think that's where you're leaning, Noodles. That's where I would probably instinctively lean. But that doesn't mean that everything is cookie cutter. It's not always the same. Maybe he is a different beast. Maybe he shows up, hits the ground running, and becomes a serious part of this team.
Well, remember the Minton kid last year played some games, right?
And then it faded. It faded on him.
But it just I think with young guys and where this organization is too, the expectations are high as they are every year. But you're right. It's what's best for the player. Doesn't mean that the kid can't play games, but you give him. If you think that if it's overwhelming at some point, you still have some luxury to do something with him. That's what it is. But if the kid has a great training camp and doesn't look like he's out of place, you can play in the National Hockey League. But I don't think you've got to force feed it in. We've seen too many times in other markets, other situations, where a guy's a high pick, he's a first rounder, the team hasn't been that great. Well, you got to force feed him into the lineup because you know what? This is the shiny new toy. Let's have a distraction over here because the team isn't that good. That's not the case here in Toronto. You either make the team and prove that you can contribute with this team as they go along, and if you don't, then Tree has some options to do something
for
with
sure. Yet I would say the one we always talk about sometimes the apathy of the fan base or how stale it can feel because it's the main guys who are returning. That kid could create a spark that I don't think any of the other new players can. Right, like Chris Tanev is a really good player. He's not going to go end to end in his first shift as a Leaf and be like, wow, no one's showing up being like, man, you see him block that shot. You just have an appreciation for how good he is. And you appreciate that he's going to help them be a better team. I think the same thing with a number of other guys that they've brought in here. A 19-year-old kind of number one prospect, that is a different avenue. And again, they're not going to take that into consideration from a marketing standpoint because they don't have to do that because they're the Leafs and they're worth a fortune and they're going to sell out every night. But I'm talking about how the fan base may organically react if he plays himself into it. It's like core four. You put an Easton Cowan in there, 19, that shows up and starts playing. That will create a lot of buzz. A lot of buzz. There will be a lot of
buzz
people
simply because
excited.
it just hasn't happened a lot.
It's something different. Exactly. It's
no
something
kidding.
different.
Like other than those big guys that have been drafted, like the Nylander, Matthews, like who are we talking about coming up? That's like we're looking at Nick Robertson, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he
Joseph
wants out.
Wall, I guess.
And it's not been 2 years. Those guys haven't been around for 2 years. They've been around a long time. And I know they've traded firsts and traded picks, but there hasn't exactly been a lot.
No, in terms of high-end prospects, there hasn't been.
And thin. But, you've traded guys away, and I think these prospects are the two of them. And I think there might be more, too. Like, you get guys that show up. But obviously, Cowan has the most buzz. I think Minton opened some eyes last year. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're bringing at training camp.
Yeah, me too. And it opens up before you know it. So there you go. We're going to the President's Cup. We'll be talking about that a lot in the next couple of weeks as we head towards Montreal, but we also head towards another game tonight and another pick tonight and picks on Sunday. And my partner is buzzing on the text chain, at least with me anyway, trying to figure out what we're going to do with this Cowboys-Browns game because, of course, we have that one, which is a very tough pick.
The weekend games are decided who's getting what?
Yes, they've been determined, yes. So we'll reveal what we're picking as of the next hour, all right? Luke's
I
coming
can't
up.
wait. I can't wait to hear what this cat had. Not you. You generally sensible. I just can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
He's got information. He has tremendous information that he's going to apply, and it's going to determine which way we're going to pick. So that's coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Luke Wilson coming up. Al's brother coming up. More picks on the game tonight. Games on Sunday. Dear Hazy B at 6:30. It's good to have a lot of people, submitting their Dear Hazy B's. I ran into a lot of people over the summer, very excited about this segment and saying that we need to continue to help people, and that's exactly what we plan on doing.
Yeah.
That's what we do at 6:30 on Fridays. Some Fridays.
Mandatory.
Some
Mandatory
Fridays.
on Fridays. Most Fridays. Yeah, I think we'll do it most. So we got that going. We got Jays in Atlanta tonight. The U.S. Open continuing. Yannick Sinner's playing right now. He's in the semis.
Cheater.
And
Cheater.
well, that's it, right? Like if he ends up
Cheater, he
winning
got
this
busted
thing,
with roids twice, and he's still allowed to play. That should have been a 2-year suspension, man.
that's what a lot of his competitors are saying, or a lot of people in the tennis world are like, hey, even if he has an explanation for it, which everyone has an explanation, but even if he does, he got caught. Like, he did
Who's
test
your
positive,
boy with the Jays?
technically.
Chris Colabello?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd never heard from him again.
Anyone in baseball, they don't have a chance to make up an excuse. But this Yannick Skinner was like, that was a massage cream. Sorry about that. They're like, go ahead, nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know that.
Cream.
It was a massage cream.
was.
I had no idea. It was a massage cream. And then he's just like, nothing to see here. Anybody else is gone. Gone for 2 years.
Generally speaking, that is the case. Now, I read a compelling argument that the fact that he was so open about it maybe is what let him off the hook.
Dude, I'm sorry. That's an insane comment, Hayes. Guys have been open about it before. I ate a steak, and I didn't know the steak had steroids in it. And they're like, we don't care,
but that's
you're
always
done.
bogus. A lot of guys go, I don't know what happened. How could that possibly – where he was like forthright. He's like, I know exactly what it was. It was this – the massage or whatever. I'm not letting him off the hook. I'm saying this
massage oil.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting a
Craftley?
massage. He was
Bobby
using
Kraft.
like an oint. He wasn't Bobby crafting it up at a tug. He was using an ointment that had stuff in it, and he claimed he didn't know.
He goes,
I
I know
understand
exactly where he comes out. He's like, I know exactly where I got what happened
I could
here.
tell you where it was.
You got to go to a strip mall in Florida.
Right.
Oh,
There's a little place off I-90 down there. Keep your head on a swivel because there's some heavy hitters in there. I know exactly where to go. Yeah, and if he ends up winning, listen, he's the number one player. Like, the guy's a stud, and he's going to be a stud for a long time, but this is going to hang over him if he ends up winning the U.S. Open here. All right, final hour coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050, soon to be up on TSN 2.